Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'll be talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and their quarterbacks from Ben Roethlisberger to potentially Aaron Rodgers. This is on another episode of... So the story of the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks since Ben's retirement begins back in 2021 with Ben's retirement. And that his retirement created a very important question for the Steelers, and one that they're still struggling with today. And that's, who's the successor? Who will be Ben's replacement at quarterback? And as you'll come to see, they haven't really figured that answer out. After 2021, when Ben retired, the Pittsburgh Steelers went into the 2022 NFL draft knowing they needed a quarterback, and they selected Kenny Pickett in the first round to attempt to replace him. And Kenny Pickett showed a lot of promise. He played at Pittsburgh in college, and he looked good. He wasn't expected to be a Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen type of quarterback, but he was expected to be a very good one. At least that was the hope many people had. And coming out of college, there was no indication that that wouldn't be the case for Kenny. However, unfortunately, there was one man in the Pittsburgh building who had been hired in the previous year with Ben still around to be the offensive coordinator, and that man was Matt Canada. Now, if you watched the Pittsburgh Steelers at all in 2022 and 2023, while Matt Canada was there, you would have experienced some of the most single-handedly terrible offensive play calls you've ever seen an NFL team call up regularly. And poor Kenny had to be subjected to this man orchestrating the offense for 2 seasons in Pittsburgh, and it was terrible. The Pittsburgh Steelers offense was regularly the worst, and Kenny unfortunately could not escape taking some of the blame for Matt Canada being literally the worst play caller in the entire NFL. Because let's be reminded, Mike Tomlin's a defensive coach. He works with the defense. The offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh gets a large amount of freedom to call whatever plays he wants for that team. And Matt Canada was bad at it, and that showed. And unfortunately, Kenny could not escape it, because in 2023, when he got hurt, well, Matt Canada was fired in 2023, and Kenny had like one game where there was no Matt Canada influence, and he looked better. He looked free. He played much better than he had ever under Matt Canada, and we were all excited to see if this was the change that was necessary, if Kenny would finally break out and be himself. And then he got hurt, and he finished the season hurt. And then Mason Rudolph came in for the Steelers, and it was over. And the Steelers decided they no longer wanted Kenny, and so Kenny was gone. But he was playing so good in that game right after Canada got fired. So after figuring out their coaching situation for offensive coordinator and bringing in Arthur Smith of all people, in 2024 the Pittsburgh Steelers needed another quarterback because they had just ditched Kenny, and well, there were a few options out there, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, deciding they really needed to figure out who their quarterback in the future would be, decided to bring in 2 options. A mid-20s Justin Fields and a mid to late 30s Russell Wilson. And, well, one of those is a potential QB in the future. The other one's just an old guy. So I wonder which one they promised the starting job to. Irony. And Justin Fields, however, did get a good stroke of luck because Russell Wilson got hurt in training camp, which meant he couldn't start the regular season. So maybe the Steelers will be so impressed with Justin Fields that they'll give him the starting job, and they'll renege on that promise to Russell Wilson. And so Justin Fields played 6 games for the Steelers, won 4 of them, looked better every game. By the 6th game, he was starting to look quite electric, and the Steelers benched him for Russell Wilson. I kid you not, Fields played 6 games, won 4 of them, and as he was getting better, more into the system and becoming more acclimated with the team, he was getting better. And the Steelers said, nah, let's just snub him and go to Russell Wilson because we promised him the job and we think he can throw the ball better. And so that's what they did. Now, it didn't backfire until the end of the season. Russell Wilson played a pretty good season overall until right there at the end when he fell apart. But you don't snub someone who's playing well just because you made a preseason promise. And I think that was a mistake. But it is what it is. So then going into 2025, because both Fields and Russell Wilson were on one-year deals with the team, they needed to find another quarterback. And now we enter the chaos and failure that has been the 2025 offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers when it comes to finding a quarterback. So heading into the start of the 2025 offseason, the Steelers had plenty of options of who to choose to be their next quarterback. There were rumors that Matthew Stafford was out with the Rams and that the Steelers would trade for him. That Sam Darnold had just come off his best season ever with the Minnesota Vikings and was going to be a free agent. And there were rumors that the Steelers would be interested in him because he was a decently young quarterback who had just had the best season of his career and wanted him in their system because he would be good for throwing deep balls to George Pickens and a potential another wide receiver who they'd bring in, which turned out to be DK Metcalf. And I think Sam Darnold would have fit really well into that system. But, of course, Stafford decided to come back to the Rams, so that fell apart for the Steelers. So no Matthew Stafford for them. And then, I don't know if they offered Sam Darnold a contract, but if they did, it didn't compare to Seattle's offered contract. So Sam Darnold went to Seattle, and that was unfortunate because there goes your chance of getting Sam Darnold in Pittsburgh. And so with both Stafford and Sam Darnold gone, okay, Pittsburgh, you're running out of options. There's still Justin Fields out there, Russell Wilson, maybe Daniel Jones, Mason Rudolph, Aaron Rodgers. So you have to pick one soon or you're going to run out of options. And so the Pittsburgh Steelers made a contract offer to Justin Fields. And they lowballed him. And then the New York Jets upped their offer by $10 million. Gave him just a little bit more respect. And Justin Fields had already been snubbed by the Steelers in 2024 when they benched him for Russell Wilson. So even though maybe the Jets are a less desirable team to play for, they weren't a team that disrespected him. And he went there. And so now the Steelers are down to Russell Wilson and a few other options. And what do the Steelers do? They signed Mason Rudolph as a backup. Now, actually, I think that's a good move because he was a former Steelers quarterback who knows the system and has been shown in the past to perform decently well in it. So I think that was a good option. And then they probably forget about Russell Wilson, which is fine. Russell Wilson did fall apart in 2024, so getting rid of him, not the worst thing ever. But with getting rid of him, well, okay, who's left? And there's one option. There's one option left, and the Steelers are going to have to live with it. It's either him or nothing now. You know who I'm talking about. It's only been the biggest headline, consistent headline of the offseason. Aaron Rodgers is now the only real option left for a starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to choose the Steelers. He could just choose to retire. He could choose to go somewhere else on a really cheap deal and compete for a starting job. But the all likelihood is that he'll go to Pittsburgh and be the starting quarterback there. And good job, Pittsburgh. You have gone from Ben Roethlisberger retiring to a young Kenny Pickett to not being able to decide if you really want Justin Fields or Russell Wilson to now a 41, soon to be 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers who had just been on the Jets. Now, I will say they haven't signed him yet as of time of recording, but it's likely they will. And all I can say is, good job, Pittsburgh. You've somehow managed to fall down to this point. And honestly, if I were you, just play the season with Mason Rudolph. Just give Mason Rudolph a year of being the starter just to see where he is. And then if it doesn't work out, maybe you'll finally have a draft pick high enough to get Arch Manning. With that being said, guys, please like, subscribe, share, and comment down below. And I'll see you next time.